Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to do your handover video now on your AutoTrail Tribute. So we start under the bonnet. On the left hand side here we've got your washer fluid over in this corner, power steering fluid, coolant and brake fluid. To get to these two you can just take this little cap off the top. There's a couple of little turning screws there to get to those. Engine oil goes in through here, and you can check your engine oil from this dipstick down here at the front. Your engine battery on these vans doesn't actually sit under the bonnet, it sits under the floor in the cab. So if you want to jump start the van, your positive is under this little cap just down here. Sometimes you need a little something to get it open with. I can't remember which side it opens from, but it's just under there, the little positive prong. And then your negative is this little bit here. So you see the little sign there, only for jump start. So, you know, basically don't charge the battery from there, but you can jump start it from there, no problem. So that's where that is, if you needed to get to that, but you know, the battery's perfectly fine as it is at the moment. So carry on the near side. Your diesel filling point is just down here, and you need your ignition key to go in there to unlock that. And to actually release the bonnet itself, you pull from there, and that is once again on the near side. Step comes out, there's a little button just up here for your step. There you go. So that's how that comes out. And if you start the engine up with the step out, you'll get the world's most horrible sound for a few seconds, but that's just the sound. That's basically the alarm telling you the step's out. But it does draw it. It will put itself in when you start the engine up. If it's out, it will put itself in. So you don't have to do that. Freshwater inlet is this one just here. It does need a little spray up lubricant, but there you go. That's the freshwater cap. So to lock that up, push in and round, whichever way it will go, round to the right, and then pop the key in there and just turn it 90 degrees, whichever way. And that'll be locked up. It'll just spin rather than come out. Storage at the back here. Not sure if there's too much to show you. That's just a plug socket down there. All the carpets for the van are in here. We always take them out and roll them up, just so you can see that the floor's in good nick. But otherwise, really, really good storage all the way through there. Quite impressed with that actually. Yeah, so that's just storage through there. Bike rack at the back. So really, really simple to use. You quite literally just pull these out of the way, fold it down, and then you get your bike, pop it on the on here, pop these through the wheels, hold on to the top of the bike with one of these arms, depending on which rung you've got the bike on, and that's it. Really is as easy as that. So if you had your boiler lit up on gas, you would need to have this cover off like it is now. I'm not sure if there is a cover with this one, but you know, it doesn't really make a huge difference. The covers can just be for sort of like winterizing, things like that. But that's the boiler vent itself, so that's your hot water. The heating is totally separate, so I will show you that in a minute. But if I just open up this cupboard now, this one just here, so I'll just push both of these rungs at the same time. Give me a sec. There you go. So it's quite an important locker. So you've got your boiler drain, which is this one just here. So if I lift this up, all the water would drain out of the boiler straight down onto the floor, but it's not doing anything at the moment because it's already been drained. Your water pump is over there, and I think something's been stuffed behind it just to stop it rattling, which is quite normal. Your leisure batteries are one under here and one in line up here, so you've got a dual leisure battery system, which is good. So you've got this fuse here telling you that the battery's all good, and you know, the fuse is working, power's going to go to the board, things like that. So yeah, I think that's about it for under here. You've got this little switch over here, which would be easier to see from inside really if you lift the seat up, but it actually says ultra heat on it. So if I just double check that, yeah, ultra heat. So what that does is it allows you to use the switch, which I'll show you in a minute, which says Ultra Heat inside, which is, it'll have 500, 1000 and 2000 written on it, and that's the way they actually use your heating via the hookup cable. So obviously the cable needs to be plugged in for that to work, but I will show you how that works in a minute. But you need to have that switch on there first before you can use that. I'll just close that up. I will lock it up in a minute. Freshwater drain is this one just down here. And just whilst I'm on that point, the wastewater drain is this one a bit further up. So both your drains being on the offside is useful, a bit easier to remember. Your hookup point, so that's if you're at a campsite or at home, wherever, if you've got a hookup cable available to you, it's always useful to have one in, for a couple of reasons. As soon as you put a hookup cable into this van, along with most vans, your leisure batteries will be starting to charge straight away. So if you're going to use the van for a long time, it's always best to have a hookup cable plugged in, just in case your battery starts to drain out over a certain period of time. And also, give you access to using things on the mains. Your gas bottle and gas locker in here. So don't worry about it being dirty. They get reused and refilled all the time over at Callus, so they a lot of the time they're like this. But to turn the actual bottle on, it's anti-clockwise round to the left. And if you remember to go all the way on when you do that, when you come to turning it off, you'll only be able to go one way anyway, so you can't get mixed up. But clockwise round to the right is off. It does say on the top of it, but sometimes you can't quite see in there to actually read it, so just remember that. Clockwise round to the right for off, anti-clockwise round to the left for on. Your changeover has been fitted, so you could have another bottle in here in line, with this pipe if you wanted to, but we only give away one full propane bottle with each sale, so that's why that's like that. These are both brand new as well, so you've got 2021 on your pigtails. So you've essentially just got this, which is your regulator, and this little changeover directly attached to that, so your gas is still being regulated here. But yeah, that's about it. It's pretty simple. If you had two bottles in at once, you can aim this down here, and basically it'll just automatically use one or the other, without you having to do anything. Although I must admit, these bottles last absolutely ages, so you shouldn't need to worry about that too much. Your toilet cassette locker. So you've got a new style Thetford toilet cassette in here. If the toilet flap on the actual toilet inside was open, I wouldn't be able to take this cassette out, so that's just something to point out. So if you get to about here and you can't pull it out any further, you need to go inside and just close the flap in the toilet itself, and then you'll be able to pull it out freely. The only thing to point out really, this blue button at the back here, when you're emptying the cassette out from here, you need to hold that blue button down. It's an air pressure release valve, so it just comes out a lot easier basically. But yeah, so once you've emptied that out, fill this back up with 1 or 2 caps full of the blue fluid. When you take this cap off, you'll see that it's like a measuring cup as well. So yeah, nice and neat. Pop it back in until you get the click, and then, like I said, just lift it up from there. You've got a freshwater flush, which is what that pipe is there, so you haven't got to worry about filling up any separate flush fluid or anything else, anywhere. There's nothing up here or anything like that. So as long as you've got a little bit of water in your fresh water tank, you'll be able to fill up or flush your toilet, sorry. So that is just one thing to bear in mind. You do need to keep a little bit of water in the van if you want to use that. I'll tell you what, I'll show you around the cab. I'll just get inside first, then I'll point a few things out inside for the cab. The truth is, I've got the heating on in here and it's a lot warmer. So right, let me just pop the keys down for a second. Right, so you've got a really high spec cab in this van, which is good. So you've got a 6-speed manual gearbox. Reverse is lift up at the back, over and up to the top left. You've also got cruise control, so that's all powered down here. To be honest, you'll have to work this out for yourself really, because I don't really know. I must admit, I've not really used it before on these vans, so I'm not too sure how they work, but I would assume that you go up like that to actually set the speed, and then you can go down speed, up speed, cancel, so that's to turn it off, and resume as well. But yeah, I must admit I've not used them before, so yeah, it looks pretty self-explanatory, but there you go. The lights are on this left-hand stalk just here, so the main lights on and off of that one just there, and that one comes off again. Indicators on the left-hand side as well. Washers and wipers are on this right-hand stalk over here, so pull towards you for the washers. Electric adjusting mirrors, so you've got 2 on the right-hand side, top and bottom, 2 on the left-hand side, top and bottom, which is obviously the top and the bottom window. Uses a little bit as a joystick to actually move it around and get it to where you want them. Also, you've got your electric windows. Standard fitted Fiat, Peugeot, Citroen, they're all the same. Little stereo head unit there, which actually looks quite neat, I think. You don't need to worry about changing this out for anything, because it all sort of, I don't know, I think it sort of matches the van quite nicely, so that's good. Below that you've got your actual heater controls, so you've got where the air goes on this right hand one, sorry, and whether the air comes circulating or from outside. On the left hand one you've got your actual temperature setting, which is this top outside ring, and your fan speed setting underneath that. Air conditioning switch is this one just here, but just bear in mind, if you have this here set at 0 and you think that the aircon's not working because the light isn't coming on, it's because it needs to be from 1 to 4 for the light to come on and the aircon to start working. Obviously because it needs to be drawing air through for it to work, so that's why that is. A couple of extra bits down here as well, which, to be honest, it's I'm again not 100% sure, because it's quite a new van for us really. So that's got the cruise control symbol on it and a downhill picture, so I would imagine that it will keep you from, if you're going downhill, it will keep the speed the same rather than going faster, I can imagine. Not doing a very good job really, but there you go. I'm not really too sure what that one is, but anyway. Hazard lights just there in the middle, and you can lock the cab from inside, which is always handy. Save you find it, clambering around to find the key. There's a button just there for it. Reversing camera just up here will only come on when the engine's running. But there you go. You've also got these blackout blinds in here, so if you pull these 2 buttons together, this would come out, and you notice there's a little magnetic strip that runs all the way down this and on exactly the same on the other side. So when you pull these together, they'll meet in the middle and the magnet will hold them together. Slightly different for the side windows, you have still got a magnet, but you've just got another magnetic strip just inside here. So when you manage to pull this all the way out, it will just hold itself nice and tight against there. But yeah, nice and easy. If you actually give it a go, it's pretty easy. So, right, just for a minute, I will turn the heating off just so I can show you how it works. But I will keep the fan running, which I'll show you why for in a minute. Right, so the main door in and out, you've got a little fly screen on here. It comes all the way up. Well, not a fly screen, blackout fly. The reason there's not a fly screen on it is because you can't actually open this window, so there would be no reason for having one. You can lock the door from inside and, all that sort of stuff. But there you go. The actual control panel up here is a Sargent unit, and it's really, really simple to use. You've got a main on and off switch just here, which I won't turn off at the moment because I've got things on. If I click this button here, it tells us that the leisure battery is about half full, which is perfect because I've not got a cable plugged into the van. The engine's not running. There's nothing charging it up at the moment, so that's fine. If I click this V, then it changes the engine. It changes from leisure to engine battery. So because there's a light over the V at the moment, what that means is that everything in this van, if I turn the lights on now, everything in this van will be powered from the engine battery. And obviously we don't want that whatsoever. Unless you're in a real emergency, you shouldn't have it on the V1 at all. The only couple of reasons that you want to do that is if your engine battery is really flat, sometimes if you switch it over to V and then put your hookup cable in, it will start charging your engine battery instead of your leisure. That can work, but really it's not powerful enough to actually, if your engine battery is totally dead and you try doing that, it usually doesn't work because it's not really powerful enough to charge a battery to start a van. So if your engine battery goes flat, I would recommend either replacing it or getting an actual battery charger and just popping it on it for a couple of hours first. But yeah, that's just me anyway. This bottom left hand button here is your water pump switch. That will allow your water pump to come on and get to pressure. And this one here tells you how much water is in your fresh tank, and at the moment there's nothing. So the first thing you want to do, if you want to come into the van and start using hot water and using it all properly, you want to turn your pump switch on up there. I can't obviously show you because, like I said, I've got no water in the tank whatsoever because we've sort of winterized it after the hab check. But fill your van up with water from the fresh water inlet, which is just down there, and then literally come to your tap, pull the cold side, make sure there's no air in the system, turn it around to the hot, pull the hot side. And because the boiler is empty at the moment, when you first come to do this, you will get lots of air, and about 2 minutes you'll just get nothing coming out the tap, until the water starts coming out nice and freely. From there, your boiler is not full and you can't use it. Well, you can use it, but if you do, you'll break it, so you shouldn't. So that's the first thing you want to do. Fill your van up with water, put your pump switch on, come over here to the sink and just pull both sides, and just wait for the hot side first off. As long as your little yellow switch down there in that cupboard is laying flat rather than vertical, then the boiler will be filling up as soon as you put it onto this hot side. Just wait for it to come through nice and clearly, just like the cold, and then once you've done that, you'll be good to go to use your boiler on all of its functions, which I'll show you in just a second. Just trying to do this in order so I don't forget anything. So the fridge, you've got a nice blue light inside there so you can see, and a little freezer box just up the top. So these fridges are really simple and actually quite reliable as well. So if you had a hookup cable plugged into the van, then the best way to use the actual fridge overall is via the hookup. So what I would do is I'll just click this button here. See, that illuminates the little hookup symbol. It's not going to work. So there you go. So you got your alarm button flashing at you and making a little beep. So that's just telling you that you can't use it on that function because there's no cable plugged in. If I had the gas on like I do now, I'd use this one. It will light up on its own, just like that, and that's it. So now that won't start flashing at me because that's lit up, and it's just basically telling the control board inside the fridge that it's all good, it's all working, and you know that's all good. So it's nice and easy. That's all good. If you had your engine running, then you would click this one just here, which basically runs the fridge via a little 12-volt element in the back. But like I said, that'll only work when your engine's running. So the way to use these fridges is either get the fridge cold first before you go away via the gas or the electric hookup, and then just use this one here for when you're driving, and then switch back to one of these two when you get there. The reason being that this 12-volt one will only work when your engine's running anyway, like I said, but it also doesn't get the fridge cold on its own. You need to use one of these two first. It's just not powerful enough. It's the same on all the fridges. It's not just this one. So just bear that in mind. I'll just switch that off now. Push and hold, and that's it. Gas is off. All done. In this little cupboard next door, at the bottom, you have got a couple of gas taps. Well, quite a few actually. 4 gas taps. So on all of those, you have a little symbol, and if you had a problem with any of your appliances individually, like the fridge or the cooker or heating, boiler, whatever, that's what those 4 would be for. You can isolate them down there so that you haven't got to worry about any more issues. If you thought your hob was leaking gas or something like that, you can just isolate it from down there and then forget about it. Obviously, let us know if you think there's an issue with anything. But at the moment, we've done a full pressure test on the entire van. All the thermocouples work, and there's nothing wrong with it as we speak. And to be fair, it's a really nice little van and it's quite new as well, so I can't imagine there'll be many issues at all. But if you do run into any issues like that, any gas problems, you can just isolate them down there. But please don't think that you have to do that anyway, just generally. You don't have to do that. As long as your gas bottle's off before you start driving, and off if you're going to leave the van for a little while, then, you know, don't worry about it. Hob is really, really simple. You've got a little diagram for each thing. So you've got an igniter just here, which does the ignition for all 3 burners at the top, the grill and the oven at the same time. So I don't really need to show you how to do it, but you know, you got your left-hand burner, top right, bottom right. Push in and to the right for the grill, push in and to the left for the oven. Obviously, again, whilst holding your igniter switch. Door needs to be open when the grill's working, but yeah, it's all pretty simple stuff really. These sockets here will obviously only work when your hookup cable's plugged in, and you need to have this button switched to on. Right, so let me just pop these down for a minute. So let me just show you a window, because they're all the same around the van. So I'm just going to show you the one. First thing to point out is you've got these bits on the side. All right. Now, basically what that is when you open the window up, if you then tighten this up, a bit awkward with one hand, but if you tighten that up, see the window stays out. So that is literally it. That's all you need to know about that. It's so simple. The best way to do it without getting anything to break or keeping it nice and strong is to hold the window out of your left hand or right hand, whatever, and when it's out, just tighten them both up exactly where it is, so that you have the strain on both of them at the same time rather than just one. So if you can do that, then great. Other thing to point out is just realise that these are all tightened up even though it's closed like this. So you close them up like that. You then don't need to go and tighten all of these up. In fact, I'd advise you not to do that. Because if you forget that they're all tightened up, open up the window, push it out, and push on these when they're really tight, they just snap. It's just too much pressure for them. So leave these loose when you've got these windows closed up like this, because these little handles here are so strong, you don't need to worry about tightening it up as well. It just stops you from, you know, I've seen it so many times when people have just basically opened it up and forgotten that they've tightened those bits up, and then they just break. So just make sure that you don't tighten them back up as well as closing it up. Blackout fly screen. I keep saying fly screen, I mean blackout blind, and then your fly screen here as well. So if you have the window wide open, fly screen down, you know, you won't get any bugs coming in, things like that. So like I said, it's actually the same all the way around the van. The only difference is that you've got more of these handles dotted about. But yeah, quite literally the same windows. The skylights, again, are very, very similar. Blackout and then fly screen. Only difference with this one is that you basically need to push this button in and then pull the handle down all the way. If you want to keep it a little bit open, you can go up into there or up into there, which is also a little bit open still. But if you want to close it up, you just go all the way like that. That's exactly the same, and that one is the same as all of your windows. So, you know, really, really simple. Right, so down here are your boiler settings. So if I just get down now, just to show you. Right, so your boiler is actually really, really simple, and they've actually laid it out a lot better than a lot do. So if you had your boiler full of water, like I showed you at the very start, so you've come to your control panel, you filled your boiler up by putting the hot tap and making sure it's all nice and clear, you can then come down here and start messing with your boiler. So if you want to use the boiler via the gas, then you want to look at this left hand one. If you want to use the boiler via the hookup cable, then it's the right hand one. You can use them at the same time if you want to, but to be honest, it's a bit unnecessary because both of them get the water hot pretty quickly. But unless you're in a real serious rush, then I wouldn't worry about that at all. So 50 degrees, 70 degrees. That is all there is on the gas. So if you have your gas on, boiler full of water, just literally click up on there or down, whether you want 50 or 70 degrees. And then because it's like a little rocker switch like that, you can just leave it in the middle when you don't want to use it. If you had an electric hookup plugged in, you've essentially just got two ways. You've got up, which is a certain amount of power, and down, which is a little bit more. That's it. It should say on your hab sheet how much or how many amps each of these pulls, just so you can sort of work out what you can have on and what you can't at the same time. But yeah, obviously all depending on what ampage pole you're plugged into, or you know, whatever you can use at the same time. But that's that, really easy. The heater itself, so the same as the boiler, you can actually use this heater two ways, gas and electric as well. I'll just show you the electric way first. So in that little cupboard down there, about here, was where I showed you from outside, where you have to have that switch on, which says ultra heat on it. Now that powers this switch up here, which says ultra heat as well. So if you want to heat the van up from here with the electric hookup, obviously bearing in mind you have to have one in, you turn it down to 500, 1000 or 2000. All right, now I know that they pull about 2.5 amps, 4.5 amps, and then about 8 amps for 2000. So if you want to use this heating on electric, you can, but just be careful when you're using this 2000 one, because if you've got pretty much anything else on, you're going to be pretty close to your amp limit. And to be honest, either one of these gets the van warm pretty quick, just like the gas. So I mean, the gas gets it hotter quicker, but you know, they're all pretty good. But yeah, basically there's 3 little different elements in back of this, and essentially all you need to do is literally just choose one of these. That's it. You've got these numbers just here as well, but you know, again, it's just a power thing. But yeah, easy peasy. So on the actual heater itself, on this left hand side is the fan. So you've got A, O, M, and I'm not sure exactly what that one is at the bottom. But I know that A is automatic, O is off, M is manual. And my advice would be just to use it on manual, because then you can actually choose exactly how powerful you want the fan running at. It's so much easier that way. But basically, if I turn it down to M and then leave it on 4, if I now go around and feel the heat, or these little vents around the van, there's air blowing out of these, you know, quite nicely, you know, quite powerful. So there's literally a little fan, if I just show you actually, inside here. So it says here, please do not store items in this cupboard. Reason being that your fan and everything for this heater is just here underneath this. So if I was you, I would just leave this on at all times. I wouldn't even open that up. So yeah, it is absolutely true. Do not put anything down there, because it'll just, well, one, it'll get too hot and probably burn, and also it's just dangerous. So yeah, just leave that one shut. Put anything you want on top of it, but yeah. The only other thing to point out is that this here is your actual flue, your exhaust for the heater. But to be fair, I mean, I've had it on for about half an hour now, and it's not really very hot. So don't worry too much about it. But if you can try, or if you can do it, just try not to actually have anything touching it, just because it is an exhaust. So yeah, nothing else to show you in here, I don't think. No. All your paperwork for the van's in that brown box, by the way. But yeah, so that's your fan. I'll leave that on for a minute. On this right hand side, you've got your gas way of using the heater. So all you need to do is push down on this, and then basically just go round to the left and choose about between 1 and 2. So if I show you in here, and I push this button down, you see the igniter in there? Just about. So you see that flame in there now? So all I've done is push this down like this. All right, now watch what happens when I lift it up. You see that? So what that is, the flame that you can see there on the right hand side where that little red bit is the pilot flame, just like any boiler or any heater, exactly the same. So when you push down and it lights up, you got just the pilot flame. When you lift it back out and turn it around to sort of 4 or 5 where it is now, you get the main flame kick in, which is what that little whoosh is. And then after about 5 minutes or so, you'll have really hot air pumping out through here. So it's really as simple as that. I really like using it on the gas for a couple of reasons. If you use it on gas more often, you'll find that it doesn't clog up and stop working. So it's really important to use it on gas quite often. Exactly the same with the fridge. You need to use that on gas as much as you can, because otherwise they just seize up, and you know, we'll have to take it off and sort of clean the burner out, things like that. But if you just use it on gas more often, then that won't happen, or it's much less likely to happen. So yeah, but yeah, so that's it. That's how you actually heat the van up with the gas. So you see there the flames sort of roaring away down there. Nice clean blue flame as well, by the way. But yeah, that little red bit down there is a thermocouple. So if the flame blew out, then, you know, without you knowing, then basically the thermocouple would stop the gas pumping in. But yeah, if I want to turn that off, all the way around to the 0. Flame's gone out, thermocouple's just cooling down. And then my advice to you would be to leave the fan running for 5 minutes or so after you use it. Not if you've had it on just as long as I have, you know. But I mean, if you've had it on for a little while, then just leave the fan on for a little bit, because you'd be amazed how much heat comes out through the front of these after you've used them. But I'm going to switch mine off for now. Bathroom. Like I said, outside you need to have your flap closed on the toilet itself, otherwise you'll find that you can't take the cassette out. So it's in its closed position at the moment, and then open like that. The flush, quite simply, works by pushing this button here. You need to have your pump switch on to use that, and like I said, a little bit of water in your tank at least. If you find that you've not got quite as good pressure as you'd like to at perhaps the tap there in the kitchen, or that you've still got some air coming out of the tap in the kitchen and things like that, it's always a good idea, because you've got 3 other things on that same water system. So you've got the toilet, this sink and the shower. It is a good idea or good practice to actually use these as well. So just when you first come to using the van, after you've filled it up and things like that, just pull all of these and just get rid, because there'll be air in all of them. So once you've got rid of all of the air from all 3 or all 4 water appliances, then you'll have much better pressure around the van. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have to show you much in here, to be honest, but you've got the shower up there. Your light switch for in here is under this cupboard just here, so that's a light in the shower and in here as well, which at night is actually really bright. But yeah, you've got a little vent down the bottom there as well, so when your fan's running for the heater, it does actually warm the bathroom up as well, which is good. But yeah, so I think, I mean, I've tried to cover everything there is. I think I have. If you get stuck with anything, or think that I've missed anything out, anything like that, just let us know. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.